All right. We'll take an exception today. Usually we speak on the Parsha of the week, but being that Purim is coming out this week, it's already Yud Aleph. You know what the Gemara says about Yud Aleph Oder? The earliest you can possibly learn the Megillah is on Yud Aleph, because the Megillah can be read in several different situations. It can be read on the Yud Aleph, Yud Beis, Yud Gimel, Yud Dalet, and Tesvav. So we are into the Purim swing. We will not have another chance, I guess, to talk about Purim. Purim represents a very special, very unique aspect of Jewish life. We know that Jewish life, being Jewish, clearly is centered on the Emunas Hashem, in recognizing the presence of Hashem, and recognizing that Hashem created the world, that He runs the world, and that everything in the world was created to fulfill His purposes and His intent, and to reveal godliness. How do we reveal godliness? So there are many different ways how this is revealed. One of the most obvious manners that this is revealed is through miracles, like those that took place in Mitzrayim, those that took place at Kriyas Yamsuf, those that took place by Matan Torah, and those that took place during the entire journey that Eden traveled through the desert, with the cloud hovering over the Mishkan and the pillar of fire and all that. So there you clearly saw that there is something in existence that is not worldly, and that is completely supersedes, above, unlimited by worldly limits, worldly parameters. Literally, you were able to point, here's Hashem, here's something that is not worldly. Another way that godliness is recognized and revealed, that is in a Torah, in our learning Torah, and in our emunah, in the power of faith of emunah that a Yid has in his neshama. There too, there is a real recognition and presence of godliness. For those of you who have learned more chassidus, less chassidus, but everybody knows that there is in our neshama a koyach, a faculty that's called chokhmah, where a pure and complete recognition, cognizance of godliness is present in the Jewish mind. Meaning to say that a Yid has the ability and experiences in his mind the sense that there is something very true, something that is unlimited by worldly limits, something that is unaffected by worldly and worldly faults, that gives sustenance to the world. This is recognized in a person's mind, in a person's heart, where literally, when you ask a Yid, how do you know that there is God? He will simply answer to you, how can you not know? Not knowing that there is God is denying what you are. This is something which is known in the Jewish mind and Jewish heart. That's another truly revealing aspect.
That's the third aside from the third?
Sorry?
And that's in addition to the first two?
No, this is part of the thing. This is that which emanates from the neshama, and it reveals itself in the mind. There was even a statement made by a goy, I don't want to mention, by a leading religious goy, or a goy leading in their religion, and he said that the Jewish people and their faith attest to us that there is God.
What then?
Attest. Their testimony. They are a living testimony that there is God. So this is all where God is recognized in a manner that is super worldly. Super worldly means above world, spiritually. But on the physical level, the simple physical world still remains physical, and it remains concealing godliness. And you need special insight and explanations to say, no, the physical world is also a godly creation. The reason for that is because we don't see anything spiritual. We see it a totally meaningless presence. It seems almost a presence for its own sake, a physical presence for no particular purpose, and therefore we do not see any godness in it. It's completely devoid of any spirit or purpose. And therefore the world continues to be an obstacle, continues to be a concealment on godliness. Then comes the Yom Tov Purim. Purim, as we shall discuss, actually breaks through this less vestige of worldly concealment. And it actually brings out and makes the world itself cry out the presence of God, of godliness. As you know, just to start a little bit on the periphery, around a little bit, going from around from the circle into inside. In the Megillah's Esther, there is not the mention of Hashem's name, not even once. Hashem's name is completely omitted from the Megillah. It seems almost that the way the Megillah is relating the story, a whole slew of events, in some kind of a historical development, occurred without any godly intervention.
You mean occurred?
Huh?
Occurred.
Happened. No reference to God at all. The Megillah itself says that these days will be called for all history, for all posteria. These days will be called Purim. Why are they called Purim? Because Haman threw lots. Pur. The word Pur is not a Hebrew word; it's a Persian word. Persian.
Persa.
Persia.
Persa. Persa, idioma persa.
Right?
It's a personal word.
Yeah. The Megillah translates. The Megillah says, "Apur hagoyrol." Pur is goyrol. And yet, the name of the Yom Tov is called Purim, not Goyrolus.
Definitely more catchy than Gorillas.
Yeah.
I wouldn't want to celebrate that.
These two phenomena are typical, and they're demonstrative. They demonstrate an inner meaning of Purim, what actually took place in Purim. The essential message of Purim is, you know that, I'm stepping back a bit, that at the time of Purim, the Megillah gives us the whole story, all the way, so to speak, from before the beginning in a developing sequence. And it mentions the first thing in the Megillah that Ahasuerus, the king of Persia, made a big feast. And the feast lasted 180 days. Sounds ludicrous, but that's what happened. 180 days of feasting, of drinking and going wild. That was the occupation of the king of Persia, and everybody was welcome. And then there was a special feast even with greater luxury and greater pomp, for 7 days for the people of Shushan. What were these feasts representing? Celebrating richness, wealth, worldly enjoyment, worldly success. That's what they celebrate. And the Yidden, the Jews of Shushan, participated in these feasts. Not only,
180 days, you said?
first was 100 days,
100?
180,
180.
and then 7 days of a special feast for Shushan, for the people of Shushan. Okay? So let's go through this. The Eden participated in this feast. And Eden participated in this feast, and as the Gemara says, and the Rebbe explains, not only did they participate, but they boasted, they gloated, they were especially impressed by the fact that the Goyim, that Achashverosh invited them to his feast, to his celebration of his kingdom, of his success. What does this mean? It means, if you look at it at the face value, that Yidden at that moment forgot who they are. And they look to equality of how to be the Goyim. On the contrary, they felt fortunate that the Goyim accepted it.
The fish, what do you say? The fish.
They felt fortunate.
They felt fortunate, happy.
Or stay close to the way. Why equal? For two defines?
What?
Why look like equal? Like equal for eat with the goy?
They enjoyed the same thing, and they glorified in this, which means that the neshama aspect that we spoke about before, the sense of godliness, the sense of the neshama, was completely dormant, sleeping. There was nothing there. All that remained was the body, the goof. And on the goof level, a Yid does not look different than a Goy. On the body level, you can't tell the difference. Despite the fact that Eden completely sought to integrate with the Persians, with the Goyim, and they kind of lost sight of their neshamas, and they looked exactly like the Goyim from any appearance. What happened soon after? Haman couldn't tolerate the Yidden even in that state. Clearly, he was not objecting of them, of their ruchnis, because they had hidden their ruchnis. And yet, despite that, he came to Achashverosh and he said, there's a nation that spread all over your kingdom that is different than all other nations in your kingdom. In other words, somehow Haman sensed that even though they look the same, they're different. There's something different about them. And it is for this difference that Haman justified going and destroying them and eliminating them from the kingdom. After the Gzeira of Haman, then came the sequence of events. The first thing was Mordechai found out about it, and Mordechai, as it says in the Megillah, he put on sackcloth and he went through the streets of Shushan and he was screaming. What was he screaming? He was screaming to Yidden to wake them up that they should do tshuva, repent. So that Mordechai reminded the Yid, made them aware that no matter where they are and what the circumstances are, they have to know that they are different, that they do not survive on the basis of their worldly and bodily success. They can only survive on the basis of their spiritual success, spiritual activity. Because at this time, when this Gzeira came out, Esther was already a queen. So logically, the first thing Mordechai should have done was contact Esther and arrange for a delegation. Mordechai was also a prime minister, was a big appointee in the government. Should arrange for a delegation to go to Achashverosh and try to nullify the decree. That's not what he did. That's not what he did at all. The first thing he did was he went to the streets of Shushan and he cried and he made a big ruckus and screamed that Eden should wake up. And finally Esther found out about it, and when Mordechai urged her to go to Achashverosh, first thing that Esther said was that you should call a fast for 3 days. You should call a fast for 3 days. And she said that she herself is also going to fast that in 3 days. The Rebbe points out a very interesting point here. Esther is going to Achashverosh to plead, and her only basis, her only reason that Achashverosh would allow her in was because she was his wife, and he liked her, liked the way she looked. If she's going to fast for 3 days, 3 days is not exactly, 3 days fasting is not exactly a good preparation for being attractive physically. 3 days. 3 days a night. 3 days, right. Shleishes him laila v'yem, night and day. That's a preparation to go to a Goy Achashverosh who only knows how to feast and drink. But this had to be broken through. It had to be established and recognized again that this is what the Jewish people are based on. And then we know, of course, that Esther was successful in her pleas, and Eden were victorious in their work, in their war with their enemies, and they regained their place and their status, their right to exist, their right to live. And the way the Megillah expresses it, that after that the decree that they were permitted to stand up and defend themselves, says that Yidden gain with Pesach Havdalah every Shabbos. Lahudim oisa oira v'simcha v'sosim v'yikor. That Yidden had lived up oira v'simcha v'sosim v'yikor. So this oira v'simcha v'sosim v'yikor, these are the 4 things that were presented as the sign, as the indicator that differentiates Eden from the Goy. They had Eira, the Simcha, was also Vikor. So on this, the Rebbe asks that these indicators need to be elaborated on. You have to understand what kind of indicators they are. Because the Gemara says, what are these four things? Oira, v'simcha, v'sosan, v'yikol. Oira refers to Torah, Simcha refers to Yom Tov, Sosan refers to Mila, and Yikor refers to Tefillah. So these are the four simonim, the four signs that Eden will differentiate a distinction from the God. So the Rebbe asks, on each one of these four, if you talk about Torah, the Goyim also have Torah. The Goyim also have Chochmah, they study, and they even can learn in Torah. If you talk about Simcha, Yom Tov, the Goyim also have their holidays. If you talk about Sosaim, which is Mila, there are Goyim, there are whole nations of Goyim that also amal themselves. And then there is Yikor. Yikor means Tefillin. Tefillin is like a is like a symbol, a sign that you put on to show that you are a Yid. Put on your hand and your head. Lahadl Goyim also have all kinds of emblems and charms that they put on in order to also distinguish themselves and show off who they are. Who?
Talisman? Are they also called talisman?
Talisman. Talisman. So why are these things chosen to be the signs? And here is the secret of Purim. So the Rebbe explains in this unique sikha that all four of these things are found by Yidden and L'havle Bagoyim. And the idea here is to show how it is that even in those things that Yidden are equal with Goyim, similar, they're different, they're still different. That even in four things that Goyim can also replicate and have similar things, and there is a primary difference about Yidden. And this difference is what distinguishes the Yid from the Goy, and this difference is the core, the heart of what Yiddishkeit is. And this is what I want to elaborate a little bit, and then discuss it closer to ourselves here. Torah, as we said, Torah, by Goyim also there is studies, there is wisdom, all kinds of different disciplines of study, and many of them even study Torah, but there is a primary difference. The difference is that even though Torah, we're talking about Torah here, referring to Torah Shebe'al Peh, even though Torah is something which we learn with our logic, with our seichel, we need to understand Torah. But the difference between the way we understand it and the way Goyim understand it is very, very primary. There's a very big difference when you study something and you say, the way I study, the way I understand it, that is the basis and that is the truth of it. The truth is because I understand it, that's how it makes it true. As opposed to the way we learn Torah is, we learn Torah, we try to understand it, but the Torah does not become true because we understand it. The Torah is true whether or not we understand it. Except that Hashem has given us a Torah in such a way that even we, with our own mind, can also understand some of it. Some of it remains beyond our understanding. It's not limited to our understanding. The principle of learning Torah even those parts that we learn up Seichel, like Torah Shebe'al Peh, is first we learn what the Torah says. Then we try to absorb it in our mind and to understand it with our own Seichel. And to whatever extent we understand it, we have gained understanding. And then there is that extent that we don't understand, it remains beyond understanding. And it remains true anyway. Like, for instance, if somebody learns and he figures out logically that a certain halacha, a certain din should be in a certain way. And then he opens up a Mishnais, and he sees that the Mishnah says the opposite. The Mishnah says, no, this is different. So he's not going to argue and say, but I think differently. That would be silly. Even though he can argue, he says, look, the Mishnah will be Chacham, I'm also big Chacham. So they figured this way, I think they're differently. No, that's not the way you learn faith. The first principle in Torah, as the Mishnah says, that Yiras Chet koidemus l'chochmos, that Yiras Shamayim has to come before Chochmah. If his whole truth is based on his Chochmah, he's going to go off in the wrong direction. First, he has to be Yiras Shamayim. First, when you learn Torah, he knows that this is holy words, and this is a truth beyond that comes from Hashem. Now I try to understand, what did Hashem say? And if I understand something, I'm lucky. But if I don't understand, that doesn't change the fact. Actually, in Jewish history, this was a big dispute. This was a big stumbling block, a big problem. During the time of the second Beis Hamikdash, as a matter of fact, during the time of Hanukkah, there was a sect called the Tzdukim. The Tzdukim was a group. They became at some point very powerful and very large, who rejected Torah Shebe'al Peh, and they only learned Torah Shebiksav, only the written Torah, and they interpreted the mitzvahs according to their own seichel, their own interpretation. They didn't accept anything from Kabbalah, from Torah Shebe'al Peh, and this was a tremendous tzara for Eden. In the second time, the second time, there's a latter point of the time. Okay, so this is the distinction between the Torah that we learn and handle the Chochmah that the Goyim have. Our Torah, this is important to remember, when we learn Torah, even though we understand it, we try to understand it, we're supposed to understand it. But the first thing is we're learning Hashem's word, Hashem's Torah. And therefore, when we do understand it, it's not limited to our seichel. It's not limited to the fact that I understand it. I understand Hashem's word, Hashem's Torah. The power of that understanding is infinitely greater than when somebody understands human wisdom, human thought. Then there is Simcha, the same thing, Yom Tov. As we said before, by the Goyim also there is Yom Tovim, there is holidays, they celebrate various historical events in their nation. But the holiday, the way they celebrate the holiday, the way we celebrate the holiday is a totally different thing. By them, the holiday celebration is just to enjoy the food and the drink and just going free and wild. Our Yom Tov ultimately, primarily, has to strengthen our Yiras Shamayim and Avodas Hashem. Even though, and it is through Simcha, and through Simcha we celebrate Yiddishkeit. The same thing that came to Mila, even though there, as you said, but there is Mila, some Goyim Amal, so the Rebbe explains that Mila, by them it is only the pain of the Mila. By us, Mila is called Soson. Soson is even greater than Simcha. What are we rejoicing with? We're rejoicing with the fact that we have a mitzvah that is part of our body and that stays with us all the time. All the time. Even at a time when we cannot do mitzvahs, we always have a mitzvah in us. When you go into the shower room, you go into a mikveh, you also have a mitzvah, which we can't do anything else. That means that this is dobayas, this is not a pain, this is rejoicing. And the same thing is Yikor. Yikor refers to the tefillin. The tefillin are symbolizing our connection to Hashem. So when a goy puts on a symbol, he puts on something glorious, something beautiful, something that glorifies and shows his great status. He has a gold pin or something. We put on something made of parchment, black. There's nothing glorious about it. But what is it? What is its symbol? Its symbol is that we are connected to Hashem. So even though there are similarities, but in essence they're completely different, completely dissimilar. And the reason this came out on Purim, because the union of Purim, as we said before, that even though Yidden at that time were in a state of complete golus, of complete darkness, where they lost sense of their neshama, and there was only the goof, and yet through the goof it was shown that a Yid is different. And this is why the result of Purim is that even those things that Yidden are similar to the Goyim, they're also different. This is generally the sikha, this concept of Purim. What?
By the Mila, how do I know how to see that?
They see only pain. They do the Mila when they have medical needs for whatever reason, but they only see it as pain. By Yaz, this is a source of joy.
What about the Arabs? Don't they do it at the 13?
Mm-hmm.
And they don't do it for medical reasons.
No, but it's still a source of pain.
Their whole lives are so.
I don't want to discuss certain things, but it's still basically that they have to go through the pain of it.
Roy,
But
is there a common trend in all these four? Like, is there something that each one has something that shows its difference, or there is a common, like
the common thread through all four is that by Eden, everything, and all of these four, even in a similar thing, all of these have a godly spark in it, rather than just a worldly thing. You know what the Gemara says, that Purim you're supposed to feast and celebrate and drink ad lo yoda. That's meant ad lo yoda. You drink to the point where you lose your judgment, you lose your knowledge. Lo yoda. What do you lose your knowledge of? You lose your knowledge of ben oror Haman and Baruch Mordechai. You lose sense the difference between oror Haman and Baruch Mordechai. That Haman is cursed and Mordechai is blessed. Now, what does this mean? Not like something that it means that you reverse the order. You say the opposite. No, that doesn't mean that. Oror Haman always remains Oror Haman. And Baruch Mordechai always remains Baruch Mordechai. Chas v'shalom that each should turn around and say the opposite. So what does it mean, Ad lo yoda? Ad lo yoda means that normally if you ask a Yidden, why do you curse Haman? Why do you curse Haman? Look what Haman wanted to do. Haman is a son of Yisrael, is an anti-Semite from all times. Wanted to destroy the Jewish people. Why do you bless Mordechai? He saved the Jewish people. This is the pshat Yoda. I know the reason for it. I understand. I can explain it. So when you have a reason for this, that means that it is something that happened under certain circumstances. It so happened that Haman did this and Mordechai did this. The Ad lo Yoda means that you reach a point where you don't need an explanation why Order Haman Baruch Mordechai. You don't need an explanation for it. Haman is Klippa, Haman is Amalek, and Order Haman. Baruch is Kedusha, Mordechai is Kedusha, Mordechai is a tzaddik, and Baruch Mordechai. You don't need an explanation. What did he do? Why did he deserve that? You don't need an explanation. It's beyond knowledge, beyond explanation. When a person is normally conscious, normally under normal circumstances, he thinks rationally, logically, and he's always aware of the reasons why he does things. There is a moment when a person drinks, and he drinks a lot, then he loses his rational sense, his rational mode of thinking. And then what comes out? His very essence. He can't rationalize anything, he can't explain things, but his essence comes out. This is what the Gemara says. The Gemara says, that a person is caught, a person can be identified, recognized in 3 instances. Which means he can be identified, you can know what is the essence of what kind of person is he. What's the essence of the person? A person always can present a nice face, a nice front. He knows how you would like him to see. So some people say he knows what he would like him to say. But that's not what I want to know. I want to know what you think, not what you would like me to say. The Gemara says that in 3 instances you can catch the person. Who is the real person? What are the 3 instances? Anybody know?
Money, alcohol,
When he's angry,
The koisei, the kaisei, the kisei. The koisei, when he takes a cup, he empties the cup, turns the cup upside down. The kaisei, when he gets angry. And the kisei, when he touches his pocket. There you can see the real person.
So the last,
Huh?
the last you said,
Kisei is his pocket.
is pocket.
Pocket.
Oh, it doesn't touch the pocket.
Right. Why is that? Especially the koisoi, because when he drinks, then he loses his sense of logic or rational. And what does come out? What comes out is the essence of the person. So what happens? Lahavnu when a goy drinks, and lahavnu when a yid drinks. Especially Purim, the Chacham said Purim, you should no limit. What happens? When a goy drinks, you take a look. Lahavnu, you should never take a look, but you go into a bar. What happens in a bar? They come and drinks, and then they start cursing each other and fighting, and all kinds of stupid, animalistic thing comes out of it. What happens when Eden drink? They sing a Eden. They kiss each other. It's a completely different result. Totally different thing. What happened over there?
He said they kiss each other, so he said, Chaf Sham.
What?
Ask a question.
Yeah, just one second. So, Why is that? Why is that? Why do they sing a nigun? Especially sometimes, when you're alert, you want to drink, and you want to sing, you sing Freilich nigun. Sometimes in Mashke, if you take a look, people they start singing real deep nigun. Huh?
It also depends on the knowledge of the person, Rabbi. If the person that is a Yiddish has no knowledge of Yiddish guy, what can outside from this person?
That's true. That's true. But even a Yid who does not know Yiddishkeit. See, a Yid who does not know Yiddishkeit, we have to be very careful how we look at him.
Okay, it has a soul, we know this.
What?
It has a soul,
Right.
We know.
Unfortunately, unfortunately, a Yid who knows no Yiddishkeit, if he is amongst the Goyim, he wants to show off and be equal to them. But if we take a Yid who knows no Yiddishkeit, I've seen this many times, comes in straight from the street, he doesn't know anything. And he looks like he was drunk. I remember it was one time we had in Montreal, there was a couple of young students, Yiddish students, they came in, they were a little bit tipsy. We were sitting, and they were taken in with Yiddishkeit. They knew anything. They didn't know anything. If you let him express himself, what he really feels will come out holy things. He doesn't know where it's coming from, but that's what will come out. Because that's what a Yid is. This is called the essence. The essence of the Yid. And why is Purim required? Why is the mitzvah of Purim? That you should bring out the essence of the Yid? The reason is because this is what happened on Purim. That Purim showed and revealed that what a Yid is, not on a rational, on a learning level, because as I said, Yidden have lost that because they enjoyed the Achashverosh's party, but they remained Yidden, and that essence of what they are, this is what was shown on Purim. That Yidden are different than Goyim even in their essence, not because of their learning, not because of their refinement and so forth, just because they are Yidden. And this is why on Purim, the Chachamim gave us this instruction, we have to bring out the principle of that we are just Yidden, not because we are learned or we know anything. So having said all that, so clearly this is a hero for us in terms of Purim, the oncoming Yom Tov Purim. We have to know Purim is a day that you can do work and so forth, but Purim is a day of tremendous significance. This is the day that a Yid comes completely out, reveals himself, his real essence. Reveals his real essence. There is a saying that Yom Kippurim, Yom Kippurim is the holiest day in the year, Yom Kippur. At Yom Kippur is called Yom Kippurim, a day like Purim. That Purim is even greater than Yom Kippur. Kippur. That's why on Yom Kippur, as a matter of fact, there was also the Goyrolus, the lots, the Kohen through lots, the Kohen Gadol. And Purim was created by lots. And Yom Kippur is like Purim. Purim brings out the essence of the Eden even more than Yom Kippur. Coming back to us over here in the yeshiva and in the great effort that we're doing here, everybody is trying to cramp in, in the few years that we have here to build up and to build up our Yiddishkeit and have a strong perception, strong stance, strong recognition of who we are and what we are. so that when we come out in the world, we're not confused, we're not mixed up. We don't ask ourselves the question, what's the difference between me and him? You have to come out with the yeshiva. In Mitzvah, you're not ready to come out, but the point in the yeshiva is to absorb and to sense the depth of what we are, so that we have a clear view, a clear understanding that no matter what we do, even if we do the same thing, we're going to do. We go to work, we go to school, whatever we do, even if we do the same thing, we are essentially different. You're in different arena. You have completely different perceptions of things. There is the story, seemingly a very simple, superficial episode, which you may have heard, that there was the Rebbe Rashab. He was a child, and he had an older brother, the Razor, Reb Zalman Ahmed. They were both young children, and they were playing in the courtyard, and they were debating amongst themselves, what's the difference between a Yid and a Goy? And the Rebbe Maharash, who was the Rebbe at the time, their father, overheard their debate, and he called them in to his room, and he told the Rebbe Rashab, because the Razor was the older brother, so he told the Rebbe, the youngest brother, he should go and call a certain goyam who was working in the courtyard, who was the Balagola, who was working for the Rebbe's courtyard. And he called him in. So the Rebbe asked him, the Maharash asked him, Ivan, did you eat today? He said, yes. He said, did you eat well? He said, yeah, sure, I eat well. So then he says, so why did you eat? So he says, I ate so I can have a little drink. I can have a shot of whiskey. No, he said, why did you eat? Because I want to live. Why do you want to live? So I can enjoy a shot of whiskey. That was his answer. And the Rebbe dismissed him. And then he told the Rebbe to call a shamash over there, also a very simple Yid who was working for the Rebbe. So he says to him, did you eat today? He said, yes. Did you eat well? He says, what does it mean well? Baruch Hashem, I'm not hungry. Why did you eat? So that I can live. Why do you want to live? So I can say Kippur Tili. That was his answer. And that when he dismissed him. So then the Rebbe explains to his sons, this is the difference between a Yid and a Goy. I said this is a very simple Maisa, but it is very, very revealing, very powerful revelation, because this Yid was a very simple Yid. And when he said that I'm meeting and I'm living, so as I say, Kippur Tilim, he didn't understand what he was saying in Tilim. He didn't know what it meant. He only knew one thing, that when he says Tilim, he's speaking to Hashem. He didn't have great understanding, insights, Haskalah, Avodah. He didn't have any of that. He only knew that when he says Tilim, he's speaking to Hashem. And to him, this means life. This means life. So as simple as the story is, it is revealing, and we have to understand that no matter what precious we have to go out in the world. We have to consider, we're concerned about the future, whatever it is. We have to first absorb means take in, clearly and strongly, a clear and strong recognition of who we are. What is the essence of a Yid? That when we come out, we don't get lost. We will not be confused by the appearance. We will not be confused by what is a Yid and who is a Goy Lahab, and what is the difference between them. This is not such a simple distinction, like we pointed out in the Megillah, and this is something which I personally have witnessed where young Jewish students, I know I mentioned to you, I used to go give Tanya classes in JTS. JTS, this is a conservative seminary. And I had students who were there, very intelligent people, very intelligent guys. And this was a common theme, they were relating to me about he has a Goyish friend over there in the school, and he's such a wonderful person, and he does such wonderful things. And it's very easy to lose sight and to lose recognition. You can do wonderful things, but a Yid does not stand for wonderful things. A Yid stands for a different principle. A Yid recognizes not just that he should be good and the world is good. That's not enough for a Yid. A Yid, in everything that he does, recognizes the truth, the godly truth. That the whole world, like we discussed yesterday in class, everything can be natural, but the whole mitzvah of the world is not natural. A Yid accepts the world only because it's Hashem's creation. This is the message of Purim, and this is the strength that we get from Purim. This is why on Purim, the Chachamim allowed us to drink without limit, because the Mishnah says that for other holidays, for other Yom Tov, even Simchas Torah, Sukkot Simchas Torah, which is Man Simchas Seinu, the Chachamim, the Bezdin, used to send out messengers to check up that people don't go overboard. People don't drink too much, and that everything is in order, everything is controlled. Except for Purim. Purim, they didn't need to do it. Why? Because Purim reveals the essence of the Eid, and he can't go wrong. He can't go wrong. And thus it is important to remember that a Yid cannot mix, just like oil does not mix in water. And no matter how much you twist, you shake it, it will always surface up. A Yid cannot mix in the world. A Yid cannot mix in the world. He can imitate for a little while, he can make believe, but he cannot really mix. He cannot mix. Rebbe should help each one of us here, should have Freilich and Purim. And the Freilichkeit should be a real joy, real Freilichkeit, such that you will experience a real essence, a Jewish essence. You will see that you can say L'chaim and drink, and all that comes out is pure neshama, pure Yiddishkeit. Nothing else. Nothing else. Nothing else do you think comes into mind. And this gives strength for the whole year in Mitzvah Hashem, that your Yiddishkeit should surface more and more, your neshama should surface more and more, should be strong Eden, never to be mixed, never to be confused, and be successful in everything that you do, Agashmis, Uberuchnis, and we should all rejoice in the coming of Mashiach together.
Amen. Amen.